Welcome to the Business of Family, the podcast where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities of family businesses. I'm your host, Tammy Buss, and I'm a family business survivor, and I'm also a family business advisor. In this show, we'll be talking with family business leaders and experts to bring you insights and inspiration so you too can survive your family business journey. Whether you're a founder, a successor, a professional, or just curious about family business, this podcast is for you. So back with us today, we have Lisa Ferguson, who's Gen 2 from Hangar 9, and we have her daughter, Emily, who's Gen 3 from Hangar 9. And we had such great response to Lisa's first chat about the family business that we thought we'd have her back with her daughter today. So welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Now, I have a hard time figuring out who is who here. Which one's mother and which one's daughter? Oh, and then we just need your mother in here, Lisa. And it's like the triplets, right? So anyway, today I just wanted to talk about what it's like being the second and third generation in a business, and hopefully we won't cause any fights or conflicts or something. If, we chat about a few things, but let's start with you, Emily. How did you end up coming into the business? And tell me a little bit about that journey.
Well, I started with my grandma, actually, when it was Hangar 9 at the time. But that was back in 2016, I think, 2017, or 15. I worked with her just when I was off working at Sunningdale. And then I took off to Australia for a year and a half, and then when I came back they asked me to join. So that was 2018. I joined the team full time. So yeah, it's been a good journey.
But this wasn't your first passion, right? So you had gone to school for hospitality.
Hospitality, yes, yeah, hospitality and event planning. So it kind of goes hand in hand: hospitality, fashion, retail, customer service, that kind of thing.
And that's what we talk about with family businesses, is that, right off the bat, your children may or may not come into the business and they might have their own career. But, if you leave the opportunities open, there's a possibility of them coming into the business in maybe different capacity than what they were trained at or educated at.
Yeah. And I think too, I don't know, but I think out of my sisters, at least, I kind of think I grew up with it. I was wearing a fur coat at the age of 3.
Faux fur?
Yeah. Matching hat, everything.
Well, that's because as the middle child, you had to be different somehow, right?
Yeah.
You the one who gets forgotten?
Right. I had to stick out somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so your sisters, have they shown any interest? What do they do?
Hillary's a hairstylist, so she, again, is in the same, I would say, she's under the same umbrella as us, I would say, still styling, just in a different way. And then Ashley is a lawyer, so she definitely took a different journey than we did. But she worked with Mom for a period of time. When she was in university.
And got fired.
As most of our kids did when they were in school. Somehow
I didn't want to mention that.
Yeah. Somehow when you're a family business and you're a child in a business, you just assume at an early age that you've got a job and you can, for life, you can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
No, both my boys, I think, were fired twice. So.
Well, we were never pressured to be in any business. That be my dad's or my mom's. So we kind of all took our own journey and landed wherever we are now.
Yeah, well, that's good. Back in London, Ontario.
Back in London. I can't believe it.
So, Lisa, what was it like bringing your daughter in?
Well, for me, it was great because all of a sudden, all this pressure on me, I could hand off to her. So it actually split my load in half. And it was just as far as her credentials. I mean, it was just a natural. Emmy, like we talked about, from birth came out wearing a tutu, so she should be in this business. It was actually, for me, it was a natural thing for her, out of all three of them, to end up in the family business, because it just fashion came naturally to her. To me, she's in the right business.
Right. And you still do work with your grandma? She still comes into the office or into the store?
All three of us.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So how does it differ then when you're having work conversations versus family conversations? Because there's three of you in the industry working together side by side, and then you have dinners where you're together.
I've never had an issue with that, I don't think.
No, we go off, yes, there's always, you'll find, say in a 4-hour dinner, like maybe 25 to 35, maybe to an hour, there'll be all of a sudden business talk. Something will come up. Everybody will have their comment, and then all of a sudden it will go away.
Now, do the comments come from in the business family members?
No, usually mom. Usually mom is the one that brings it up. And we do kind of make a point too, especially with the boys, like with our husbands and my son-in-laws. We realize that they don't want to hear all of our nonsense. We're together enough that, whatever needs to be said or done can be done in work hours. Right. And, there's always something else to talk about.
Yeah, we're pretty good at keeping it separate.
That's good, because I would think that it even becomes more difficult when you have larger dinners, because, Lisa, you work with two of your sisters.
That's right. And it's funny because, we can get on the boys joke, hanger 9 topics, they call it. We'll get on hanger 9 topics, and then again, it will just go away. And whether somebody says something else, and we, like our squirrels, and we're off to the next shiny topic. But also, really at that point when we're together at Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter, at that point we're almost over work. You know what I mean? You really don't want to bring it up because we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And your family, with your sisters having husbands who have their own businesses, correct, plus your son-in-laws who have their own businesses. There's a lot of businesses around the table.
Yes.
Do you find that you talk to each other about some of the issues? Do you talk about maybe employee issues or, issues, any kind of, maybe administrative issues? Do you talk about that? Because now you're getting input from different industries?
Not really.
Not really, no. I mean, will be little comments here and there. People will maybe joke about an employee. Oh, this is what happened this week at work, kind of thing. But no, we don't. Not like a business, round table where we have a topic. I'm sure if we were to bring something up like that, everybody would have their input. But it just has not happened,
because it's just unusual to have that many family members and have that many businesses at the table, that you're not just an employee of a business, you actually own the business. I
think too, because we're so family oriented
yeah,
that also we use it as an escape. We just don't want to talk about business because it's our downtime. Because we already have put in the 13-hour day.
Well, and that's good, right? Because that's the last thing you want, is to bring your work home with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, your spouses don't want to hear about it. But I'm just curious, because there's so many different perspectives from a business standpoint. Is there talk about business in general, or expansion? Do you talk about expansion plans? You talk about visions? Does that come up at the table at all?
No. I mean, obviously it's a hanger 9 issue, so we talk about it amongst ourselves. But it's not something that and each partner probably brings it up independently to their husband,
right? But
just we don't bring it up as a group,
right?
It's nothing that we've ever discussed not doing. We just haven't. It just
good.
hasn't happened. It's not like we made a point of that. Early on in the business, maybe we talked a lot more, and then we found the men would get up from the table and leave.
Right.
So then we got separated, kind of thing. So I think just naturally we just thought, oh, we don't need to talk about it, because
I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of families it does become an issue, and people walk away or say, like, I don't want to sit here and talk business all night.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's good. Sort of a natural progression, right?
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about, how you, came into the business, became an owner. And I know we've talked about this on a previous podcast, but maybe we can just run through it very quickly again for our listeners about how you ended up in partnership with your mother, as opposed to just working for your mother. Well, while Emily right now just works for you, and I want to get into about the succession planning. So tell me a little bit about how that worked with your mom and your sisters.
Well, Mom wanted to retire. And so we were kind of her succession plan. We already had the two businesses up and running. And
two businesses being
independently, like there was Hangar 9 Toronto,
right, and
then London became Hangar 9. We rebranded, but yet the companies were owned separately and operated separately.
Okay.
And then we, when Joanne decided that she wanted to retire, then we brought all the companies together under one, because I even had another company called Accents, which was all accessories, handbags, and jewelry. So we kind of amalgamated three companies together to form the one Hangar 9.
So you have three sisters, three companies that became one, three sisters now equal partners.
Yes.
And your mom, Joanne, still comes in every day to keep you all under control.
Yes. She's like our mascot. So she comes in every day, and she's
best dressed mascot ever.
100%.
Or if she's not in London, she'll be in Toronto.
Yes. And running the 401. And also, she's at the table. Right. So, still takes part in a lot of, business conversations.
So you've got four sisters. There's four of you, right?
Yes.
So, and you have three sisters in the business.
Correct.
And how did that, work when it came to just the three of you going into business together? Because your sister also is in the fashion industry.
Yes. No, Jody had the opportunity. She, at that point, had her own thing going on, and just felt it, she wanted to stay independent. It turns out that we are Jody's clients. Okay. So what would have happened, it would have been a little bit of a conflict if Jody then would have joined Hangar 9, right, considering that we buy, all of her lines that she represents for Canada. So I think she just thought it would be easier for her suppliers, for people she works with, that she kept independent.
So, okay, so you got that generation. Generation 2 is looked after. Everybody knows they had an opportunity and they're comfortable where they are, so there's no issues about the future of Hangar 9. But what about the next generation now? Because you've got three sisters in the business, and what is that? What is that opportunity? You got Emily, who's working in the business, but the other. Your other sister's children are not in the business, nor are your other two daughters.
No, that's right.
And Jody's kids are not in the business,
correct,
clearly. So how does that work then from succession planning to the next generation, moving over to Gen 3?
Well, it's funny you bring that up.
We are figuring that
because
out.
we are in the midst of figuring that out. What does it look like? The other situation that we have is Denise and I are the same age, over 55. And then Rachel, our youngest partner, is only 35. So she is kind of in the prime of her career, and Denise and I are on the end of our career. So
I think 55 is the new 45.
Yeah.
I think 60 is the new 40, actually.
Yeah. So it is really interesting because, Denise and I can go either way, but Rachel needs to continue working, and then we now have Emily. So then it's, so we're in the midst of that talk, and it's not easy.
No,
it's really not easy.
Do you have right now, and again, you don't have to give me details, I'm just asking this in general fact, but do you have a buy-sell agreement with your sisters on
yes,
who's to get your shares are to go?
Yes.
And so again, you don't have to tell me details on that, but is that part of the discussion now is what happens to Gen 3, because part of the issue is, like me, like you, I've got a son in the business, one not in the business, and how does that work from an equalization from an estate standpoint?
Right.
But also, what if he wants to come in or his kids want to come in? Is that going to be an open, like how if Emily becomes a partner with her aunt, and then what if somebody else's kids want to come in? How does that, is that the stuff you're talking about now?
Yes, yeah, and it would be like a buy-in situation.
That's
or
good.
I could hand over my shares and she'd be an automatic partner.
Yes.
So
with a little bit of tax liability.
Yeah.
Let's just tell people that you don't just hand them over.
don't hand them.
You can hand them over.
Yeah, exactly.
While you're living.
Exactly.
But again, those are part of the discussions that become part of that transition. It says, oh no, you're not allowed to unless we all agree that you can do that, right? That becomes part of it.
And that is in our agreement that everybody has to agree. If even they wanted to sell their shares,
right,
even independently, the other partners would have to agree.
And does this come up in terms of, from a family estate planning side, that the business is only one element of an estate plan? And does this complicate things for you, or have you and your husband thought this through? Okay, well, if Emily takes on the shares because she's active in the business, how do we equalize, or what do we do to the other children in the business?
I think it would. Once we make that decision, then we have to go to step 2, which would be, how does this affect the estate?
Yes.
And keep it fair.
And how about you, Emily? How do you feel about this, becoming wanting to be a partner? Is this something, a legacy that you want to continue from your grandma?
Yeah, definitely. I think Joanne and my mom and her sisters have built something very amazing that I think the world should know about without giving anything away. But yeah, I think it's definitely a beautiful thing that they've started, and that should continue in one way or another.
Now, are you involved, or do you have input in the future vision of the company?
I think I do, yeah. Like, we're all kind of chatting about that as a group. And they're taking everything I say into consideration, and but it's just at the beginning stages at this point.
It's hard because been reading up a lot on generations, and as you know, there's 5 generations in the workforce right now. So we've got, your mom, you. There's one missing, and then your baby, is coming up. It's actually 6 generations right now, but 5 of them are in the workforce. So there's the silents, the boomers, the Xers, the Z, and millennials. So not in that order, but those are the 5 in the workforce right now. And they all come at it from a different perspective, right? And what we started, how your mom started the business, Lisa, is different than how you started, how you can continue it, the technology, what people are wearing, why they're wearing it, accessories, clothing. I mean, literally when you're doing a podcast, you could be in your pajamas, or if you're doing video casts like we're also doing, you could have sweatpants on the bottom. It's only the top part, right? So just that question is a sidebar. So do people only buy the tops now and not buy the bottoms?
We don't advise that in case you spill your water and you jump up, or it's very hard. I think business in today's world is much harder than it was when we started. Social media, the technology, everything is a lot more difficult. So it's
for us, not for the next gen. I think the next gen is a little more.
There's just a lot more like paperwork and like, I don't know. I feel like just the.
They've added. It's almost like added a new division to every business. Because technology, like for us, our e-commerce site, that's like something we just had to do. But it's a whole new division, and it's got its own expense report. It's got its own advertising. It's got it's
another store.
It's almost another store.
And was that started because of COVID?
Yes, 100%. I mean,
did it move it forward? Would you have done it? But moved it forward.
Yeah, it pressed it forward rapidly. Right. It was always in our business plan, but we were like, we'll get to it. I guess if anything positive came out of COVID for us, it was that we had the time to develop the e-commerce site, which we, I don't know, the time frame it would have taken us to do
Yes,
it, because who has that amount of time
Right.
off to actually dedicate to something like that.
And just out of curiosity, because you and your sister who are in the same age group, but then you have your younger sister who's a 20 age gap. Was she the driving force on moving to e-commerce?
No, it was, well, I mean, yes and no. We all knew it was like anything that any trade magazine that we read about our industry, e-commerce, it was all e-commerce. Like the whole world is supposed to be on e-commerce, which is, I find funny now, because the way it's talked about during COVID is that e-commerce, there isn't going to be any more stores. E-commerce was going to surpass bricks and mortar, and e-commerce was like the end all of all. And now we're seeing that e-commerce are now building bricks and mortar.
Yes.
So,
isn't that funny,
and
right?
and the whole world is kind of shifting, that women now want to come back into stores. So, but I think you can't have one without the other. So
Right.
I think if you're going to be a retail store, you have to have an e-commerce site, and vice versa.
Right.
If you're an e-commerce site, you have to have a bricks and mortar store.
Yeah. And where do you see the trends going, Emily? Like, what are your friends doing now? Are they like social media? Are they buying online?
Oh
What do
yeah,
they do?
buying online is a huge thing in my.
Do they try them on
generation.
first? Like, do they go to a store and look and find the
No,
size, or what
No,
do they do?
they just enjoy, which it is hard for me to wrap my head around, but they enjoy just like getting that new item for that new event every Friday or whatever that means to them. But I think a lot of them too maybe will buy impulsively, and then if they return it, they might. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people that buy like 2 or 3 sizes to make sure, and then return the other ones.
See, I'm just too lazy for that.
Yeah, it's too much
Well, that's a
work.
lot of work. But retailers are like the e-commerce giants, like are coming wise to that. So now they're charging you for returns. So people, and plus if you buy US, you don't get your exchange back, because it's traded daily. So,
Right.
the exchange rates, conversion rates daily. So, it's not all what it cracks up to be. I think you have to be you have to be, wise to these factors before you start buying a lot online anymore, because, there's algorithms. Like I know Saks created an algorithm with compulsive returners, and they were actually being, we called it F5'd, canceled by companies, because these people were buying too much and returning it all. So return rate on an e-commerce site, the average is 60%.
It's very high.
60.
And so when a company
Wow.
starts paying for free returns,
That's a lot of money.
that's
paying
a lot
out,
of money.
paying in.
Yeah, so you're
That's a lot of your
seeing
profit
all
margin.
of this. Yeah, this whole e-commerce world is shifting and changing daily, because all of these factors are now coming to light.
So do you think that having all those different generations in your business, so really you had your mom, your sister, and now your daughter, they're close in age, so I think you're in the same.
I think we're in
you're
the
both
same,
you're
yeah.
both millennials.
Yeah.
But you've got a boomer, a Gen X, I guess, and then millennials, right? So you got 3 generations in the business. Do you think that helps with the decisions and the vision that you see?
I think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% it does. Yeah, 100% it does. Because if we're not cool enough, the young ones will tell us. And when they want to be too cool, we'll calm them down. So we flatten it. So I think we have a nice, kind of teeter-totter. We go up and we go down. We go up and we down. And it's always moving.
And was that a hard thing to adjust to, having your kids tell you in business what works and what doesn't work?
Oh, no. No, not for me. Not for me, because I certainly don't claim that I know everything about everything. Although, when they were young, I told them I was the smartest person on earth. But as
We are until they hit school. And then their
Exactly.
teacher is the smartest.
Exactly. Actually, that's something I have to say I learned from my mother, because Joanne always wanted her store to be in the attract the 40-year-old, because the 40-year-old is young enough that she thinks she's cool but not too old. That your store should always attract the 30 to 40-year-old. So that's everything, even before the kids had a say, we always had that kind of mantra that we wanted the store.
So it was
to
older
attract.
than you for a while, and now it's younger than you.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, yes.
It always makes you feel that age.
Yeah.
So Emily, go again. Being the third generation, looking inwards, what's the advice you would give to, second or third generations, either wanting to go into the business, going into the business? What's some advice you would give them?
Well, I would say probably to obviously show them what you're worth. Your work ethic, I think, is very important if that is something you want to continue. And just always kind of having a say if that be something they like to hear or not. Because, I think everyone's opinion matters in a way. It might not be the right thing at the right time, but it could be something that they could take into consideration later on.
I have one question for you before you give me your second option. Is it easier sometimes to go to your grandmother than it is to go to your mother with ideas or suggestions?
Not really. I feel like they're both kind of equal in a way. Maybe I'll talk to one.
Are you saying that because they're both in the room right
No,
now?
honestly, I think.
Can you two step out and you let her answer this on her own?
No, they're both easy to approach, so that makes it easier to work with also. But maybe if I have something come to my mind and one of them's there, then obviously I'm going to tell the one that's there. But I wouldn't say I would keep it a secret until I can talk to whoever that may be. But no, I think they're both. I would say my mom and my grandma work very similar. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why the three of us work.
They're not oil and water.
No, obviously sometimes, but we all are
well,
that.
you're like triplets, so I imagine you're all the same. Okay, so you gave the one piece of advice, show your worth and work ethic. What would be the second piece of advice you'd give to a Jen wanting to come into the business or not wanting to come into the business? What is it? What advice do you have?
I think they have to be truly interested in the business and not think of it as, I need a job, so Mom and Dad, you have to hire me.
Yeah, and I think that, again, kind of goes back to the work ethic part of it. But also, the interests, I think, I don't know, probably both my mom and my grandma saw interests, the interest that I had in the business when I was working with her, off and on. But I think too, if that is something you're interested in and you're not a part of the business, then say something. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes your parents or whoever that may be maybe hasn't given the opportunity to allow that. To be honest, I don't know if they were to approach me about it, I don't know if I would have ever approached them to be a part of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So be vocal.
So, yeah. I think, and communication, obviously vocal, I think we have to all be better at that.
Yeah. A family business is the number one thing is communication, because it can go on to Christmas, New Year. You never get away from it if you don't express how you're feeling or what's got you upset or whatever.
At the right place and at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not over Christmas dinner, the turkey with someone carving the turkey.
Yeah, true enough.
Any last comment from you, Lisa?
I think too, and I know some families demand this, that the children work elsewhere for a period of time, because then I think there is a greater appreciation for when they do come into the business, and plus they know they have a better sense as to what it is out there in the in the world, and can appreciate a good boss from a bad boss, so I think that's kind of important. Emily was abroad for a couple of years, and I think that made a difference when she came into the family business, that she had an appreciation and some management skills and some work experience before she dove into our company.
And that's another thing that as the business evolves, then you have to start looking at more governance that says, okay, who can come in, who can't come in, what are the skills required, what's the education, is everybody entitled to a job regardless? We'll find something. So I'm glad to hear you guys have most of that all under control. That's amazing. Well, really, really appreciate you coming in again today.
Well,
That
thank
was
you for
fabulous. Thank
asking.
you, Emily,
It's
for
kind of
coming in.
fun.
Thanks for
Nice
having us.
nice to get your opinion. So again, where can they reach you? Where's your e-commerce store?
If you go to hanger9.ca, and hanger is spelled HANGAR with the number 9.ca, and our e-commerce site's there.
Great. And just again, one more last thing. So this will be my last thing I'm asking you. What is Hanger 9 famous for?
Oh, our wardrobing formula. It's called
Okay.
jokingly, it's called the Fisher formula, but it is the Hanger 9 formula, and 9 properly chosen items will give you 36 different looks by mixing and
Great.
matching.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
If you like this episode, subscribe to the Business of Family podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can also find BlueRoots on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On the next show, I'll be back with another amazing guest who will inspire you with their family business insights. Until then, take care and keep it in the family. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Before acting on any advice, please contact your personal or company advisors.